Vibe one time for your mind. Vibe one time for your mind.
What's going on? We are here. We are here with another faithful review, and we are faithful to one another because we are friends. This is not just a business situation. I'm here with my guy, Tom Jensen. Tom, man, we missed a week. We zigged when we should have zagged. We're trying to get some things together.
I think we zigged when we should have zigged. There wasn't anything going on.
Yeah, we were just zigging all over the place, dog. But, man, it's been a whirlwind of an off season of sorts. Brandon Aiyuk, you have kept us busy. I mean, you've kept us busy. Brandon Aiyuk has done a phenomenal job at filling the dead period with dead space. Tom, this is the gift that keeps on giving. One of the things that I want, I mean, I feel like I'm getting right into the show, but before I do, let me graciously be the host. First of all, Tom, how are you doing, man? How's things been going?
I'm doing well, Coach. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. You know, all on my side. It's handling family, handling work, handling life, you know, but it's been doing pretty good. And this right here is, it's my time to play a little bit for us to really just talk a little bit. So I'm doing good. Fun. Yeah, man. How's things on your side, man?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I've got track to keep me busy during the downtime for football.
Mm-hmm.
So just had the Olympic trials in Eugene, and then we've got the Olympics coming up in Paris. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, and this right here is 100% true.
Oh,
like,
no doubt.
I feel like
we know, man.
We owe BA some money, man. Yeah. We owe BA some money. So, I mean, let's get right to it, man. How do you feel about the recent reports that, I mean, let's go through it, because I mean, let's not act like we all don't know what's going on, but let's go through it. Yeah. We've gone back and forth with Brandon Aiyuk with the contract negotiations. We've actually gotten numbers put out there. We've heard, I feel like at this stage of the game, we've heard from Brandon Aiyuk. You know, we understand exactly what he wants to do. And really, you have to ask yourself, what else is left? What else is left? We've heard from Brandon Aiyuk. We've heard his demands, correct? Right? Sure. We understand where that lies. We've listened to where the Niners have potentially gone with possibly trying to trade Brandon Aiyuk, inquiring about other players with Brandon Aiyuk. Then, you know, going back and forth with drafting players that presumably would be, I don't know. At this stage of the game, we're all talking out of our asses. Like, maybe replacing Brandon Aiyuk, maybe. And I feel like, in a sense, we all tell me if I'm wrong, but in a sense, I feel like we all felt like it was kind of over once the Pivot podcast hit. Like, once Brandon did the Pivot podcast, it's kind of like, all right, well, at least for the foreseeable future, one thing that we can count on is that Brandon Aiyuk is definitely going to be quiet, right? Like, it's gonna be relatively ho-hum, right? We heard from him. We got over an hour talking, which is a lot, right? And in the midst of us getting all of that together, I felt like that this was kind of like it. And then all of a sudden we get like this one last shot that they're nowhere close. That they're not even on the same page.
And that's disappointing.
I'm over it, Tom.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I was over it last month.
Tom, I'm over it, bro.
Can we hit fast forward on this stuff now, please? And just
Come on, bro.
But at the same time, we're thanking him for giving us something to talk about. So, okay. We'll have to take that in the balance. But all of this, I thought that after the pivot interview that it implied that something was going to happen soon.
I thought that's what this meant. Oh, are you all right, Tom?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you now. You okay? Good?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. I'll get closer to the mic.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So the expectation was it'll get done soon. But really what happened was just both sides said, here's where we're at. And we'll just have to find out what's going on there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. So basically nothing has changed.
No.
Brandon Aiyuk is entrenched in his position with the Niners. I gotta be honest. There was a part of this that thought that he was kind of selling wolf tickets, and maybe having Jaden Daniels at the interview and saying how he didn't mind talking to other players. I mean, playing with other players, and I mean, there's got to be a shred of truth to all of that now with this type of report.
Oh, sure.
How do you feel?
Yeah. No, I think there is that if Aiyuk had a choice, he would say, trade me to Washington so I can play with Jaden Daniels. I think that's what he would do. PDX, appreciate it, man. You can see it. So we'll find out what this is all about, but in the end, it still comes down to the same thing. Aiyuk wants more than Amon-Ra St. Brown got. He wants more than what Debo got in terms of guaranteed money, signing bonus up front. And so we'll see. But are the Niners willing to meet that? No. But I would break it down this way and say that there's a number of different elements that they could compromise on, where they could say, all right, there's total contract, there's average annual value, there's signing bonus, there's guaranteed money, there's incentives. And you work with those and say that, okay, the Niners will give on 2 of the 5, and Aiyuk will give on the other 3. Can you make a deal happen under those circumstances?
Right.
So you give Aiyuk $28 million instead of 26. That's giving him what he's most concerned about. And then you give him more guaranteed money than you gave Debo. And the rest of it is less than what St. Brown got. Are they willing to do that? Is Brandon willing to do that? We'll find out. But I think that that's where the next phase of the negotiation needs to be is, here's the 5 elements, here's the 5 things that are at play. Brandon, you get 2 of them. We'll choose which 2 will you then sign. And we'll see. But I think that's probably where it's headed.
You know what's frustrating about this, Tom, is that I was under the impression that that's what this was all about. I thought after hearing the interview with Brandon Aiyuk, my impression was, all right, look, so you want your money, kid. I get it. However, you're kind of, it's like you're saying what you want, but people who are savvy enough to be able to get to that know that there's more ways to skin a cat, and this deal will get done, right? And what does that mean? That means that for me, in my understanding of this, is that this is more of a barometer for him, where if he's smart enough to understand that if you want to be the highest paid, if you want to be adequately paid, then there's more than one way to prove that within the contract. I mean, it's more than just annual average. Man, we could give you guaranteed money. We can give you money up front. We can tie this to the back end. I mean, we could do a lot of things that rank you where you think you deserve to be. What worries me about this is that I felt like even now, how could you be so far apart if the Niners are offering 26? I just don't believe. I mean, if Brandon is offering 30 after the type of interview that he just gave, I think that that's just a little rich.
It is.
I think that Go ahead.
How much of that 30 is fully guaranteed? How much of that is incentive money? We don't know.
Right, and that's my point.
That's one point where the Niners can play with that and say that, what's your biggest ego point? Where do you plant your flag in the ground? Is it on the total value of the contract? Is it on average annual value? Is it on signing bonus? Is it on fully guaranteed money? Pick one, and then we can build around the rest of it so that we can both come to a compromise and make this work. But it seems like Brandon is saying, no, I don't want to pick one. I want all of them. And you can't do that. And I don't think that holding out for $30 million is going to help him any when you can point to the market value and say, okay, you want to be more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's fine. He got 24.5 guaranteed and then a spike in the final year. We can do that for you. Is that what you want? Or can you just, what is it? Is it total value? Is it guaranteed money? Which one? You know, the Niners are going to say pick, and Brandon's going to say all the above. And all the above is not compromising. It's not meeting them. And the Niners are willing, you would think, based on 26, to be in the neighborhood. It's just that they're not willing to go all in on everything Brandon wants. So compromise. That's what needs to get done.
Yeah, and you have to ask yourself, what levels of the contract is he just not budging on? Man, I mean, right. Do you want the annual average? Do you want the guaranteed money? Right? Do you want the years? Like, what do you want? Is it the duration of the contract? Is it the upfront guaranteed money of the contract, which is or the rest of the bonus that's going to go out over the years? Or is it the annual salary money? But what you can't do is be 100% dug in. Which I don't think he is, but
he's giving that impression.
Yes, that's the impression, Tom. The impression is that all right? Did the Niners not? All right, for me, if I wanted to get this done, if I was Parag, whatever, if that happened, Tom, 4 years, $112 million, 112 million. 50 million guaranteed. That puts you at third overall. That puts you at third highest guaranteed money. All right. You're a little under AJ Brown. You're nowhere close to Justin Jefferson. You're way over Debo. Okay. And you beat out Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay.
In guaranteed money.
In guaranteed money. Right. But what we do is we make you righteous. We get you your guaranteed money that ranks you where you deserve to be. All right. Not only that, but once you play like we know you're going to play, you can go ahead and double that down. You're still in play for your second bag. All right. And then on top of that, bro, give us a break on the back end. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would think that's where they would be right now. I don't understand. And another thing is that I know the Niners understand this, but this is the youngest piece of the core. Brock isn't goated yet, right? Even though Brock's on the way, and it's going to be him by hook or crook just off of the money, ironically enough. But sure. For right now, Brandon is our youngest gun that we have inside of that core. And you got to ask yourself, like, it's not, and this is the thing. I could see if this was like a snafu on like a couple of $1 million, like $3 million, $2 million. But you're hearing that they're nowhere close.
Yeah.
If they're nowhere close, I hate to say this, but if they're nowhere close, based off of that interview, off of the pivot, because Brandon talked, if they're nowhere close, that's got to be on the player side, in my opinion.
I agree.
What say you, man?
We know based on Mike Silver's reporting that the Niners are offering 26. So if they're nowhere close, then 28 would not be nowhere close. It would be pretty near each other in relatively close numbers. Nowhere close implies that Brandon is holding out 30. And then it's 30 in what form, and we don't know. But I still think that what needs to happen here is that Lynch needs to pull the agent aside and say, you can't get everything you want. You can't get every element the way you want it. But we're willing to give you two of them.
Yeah.
And as long as you're willing to play with us, because we have to sign Brock, we can't have Aiyuk for that much money 3-4 years down the road. That's what this is about.
Right.
You have to give us room so that we can make the full roster work. So can you help us in the back end, and then we'll help you in the front end by giving you more guaranteed money? Is Brandon willing to do that? And that's what needs to happen here. If Brandon's going to dig in and say, no, I want AAV at 30, I want more total money than St. Brown, I want. It's just no. You're at a point where you're close enough that you can take two of those 5 elements and compromise.
That's my thing.
I hope that's what needs to be done. I hope that's what is done. They need to sign Brandon. They do need him. And I'm worried that this is just going to be all the way through camp, not going to get resolved.
You know what worries me about this time is that I understand standing on business. I get that. But that Pivot podcast was a circle jerk. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
It was performative. It was gratuitous. Like, they were talking out of both sides of their mouth. True locker room talk shit. Like, logic does not live here. You know what I mean? Like, Fred Taylor saying that Brandon Aiyuk deserves $30 million, but then comes right out the side of his mouth and says, but I don't know anything about the market. I'm just saying. It's like, what are you talking about? Now. Ryan Clark, you've been quiet. You haven't said a word. Then we start going over every anecdotal social media post that's happened from Brandon Aiyuk's camp. Brandon Aiyuk says that his brother is his own man. When his brother says, the Niners, don't forget who got you there. And then he comes back and says, but I don't think that he was wrong for what he said. He was valid. It's just like, it was just way too much. One thing that I didn't hear that worried me was any type of neutral response when it came to the Niners, where it was like, hey, you know what? I know we got a team. I know these boys. We play together. And, I would love to get back out there and play, man. But the truth of the matter is that we just got some business to handle, right? I'm in the market. And when you got a room full of guys that cast big shadows, sometimes you have to be the brightest bulb, Brand. And right now, it's time for me to shine. And I want to get out there with my guys, but we got something. Give us a bone. Give us something. Like, throw us a freaking bone, Brandon. Say something that makes the fans feel like, all right, this is business. He does want to be here, but, it is what it is. But it seemed way too heavy-handed. And when reports like this come out, podcast interviews like that, coming off of reports like that, make it seem as though that same rhetoric is just married right into the negotiation room. And it's like, dude, do you even want to be here? And do you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy about this time? Is that they were having conversations like, oh, I want you to go to the Steelers. I want you to go to the Commanders. I would love to play with Jaden Daniels. Yo, do you think the Niners are going to send Brandon Aiyuk somewhere where he wants to go after this?
Well, I don't think that would be the issue for Lynch. It's just meet my trade price or else. Pittsburgh's not willing. Omar Khan has said, and it's been reported throughout Pittsburgh media, he's expecting that because this whole contract has been played out and it's stretching out and it can hurt the team, that he thinks he can step in and offer a discount and Lynch is going to take it, which is dead wrong. He's not. Look what happened with Garoppolo. Lynch refused to give in on his trade price to the detriment of the team. Lynch was willing to fall on his own sword. He's not willing to trade him unless he gets his price met. Omar Khan has made it very clear, the Pittsburgh GM, I'm not paying that. And it's why nothing happened. Washington, same thing. They talked to Adam Peters before the draft. Peters said, I'm not paying that price.
Yep.
Which therefore means you're not getting Brandon Aiyuk. Lynch is not going to compromise. He doesn't do discounts. He invests his ego heavily in having his trade price met. Neither team is willing to do that. Brandon's not going anywhere. Brandon can operate within the fantasy football confines of, I'd sure love to play for this team or that team. Yeah, but if they're not willing to offer what Lynch wants, you're not going anywhere.
Sounds nice, kid.
Focus on this team, the team that drafted you, the team that has you as one of the top 10 receivers in the league, the team with a great young quarterback, the team that just went to the Super Bowl. You need to value some of that. You're not. You need to compromise with us on 2 of the 5 elements. You're not. And it's that interview didn't bode well. It looked like a whole bunch of PR.
Yeah.
And of course, Ryan Clark, the ex-Steeler, is going to say, "Oh boy, I want you on Pittsburgh." Of course he is. Of course he does. Omar Khan willing to pay what Lynch wants? No.
Hell no. It's not happening. And you know what else?
Let it go.
Miss me with the whole the Niners are talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're trying to lowball BA at the negotiation table, and they're trying to lowball BA at the negotiation table, but they're going out and saying that he's a first round pick in the market. Hello? Hello? That's what businesses do. What are you talking about? Like that is
right.
That's not news.
No.
That's not a revelation. That, oh my God, the Niners are trying to pay BA adequately to what they think he is, possibly lowballing him, but then they're going around saying that he's a first round pick. Yeah.
That's how it's done. Welcome to the NFL. This comes as a surprise.
What are we talking about? I just feel like there's this. We're missing the plot here, right? The premise is remarkably skewed right now. This is almost like you negotiating with your niece or your son or your daughter about why they need to go to bed tonight. We don't negotiate with terrorists here.
No.
I'm the adult. I have the leverage. I will use the leverage at my leisure and at my disposal. Like,
Always.
What is this? Always. I don't owe you anything, man. And that's not to say that Brandon doesn't deserve to be done right by. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that I feel like there's this energy around this conversation like, man, the Niners better pay BA or else. Or else what?
Or else he gets a 50-year option rollover and holds out.
Yeah, like what you talking about? Like, or else what? You gonna play for $14 million and then you gonna get franchised. What else? And if you're a malcontent, everybody will see it. And then we'll phase you out. What else? What else do you want to talk about? Are we done here? So that's the side of this where I don't want that to happen, right?
No.
I think that that's far off from being a possibility, right? It's not even remotely close. However, it's on the table. And where I'm coming from is that when you're negotiating, everything is on the table.
Sure.
Okay? And if you don't want to budge, or if you don't want to be an honest broker, or we're trying to get this thing together and, it's like one hand washes the other, man. I mean, I understand we have official particulars, but you do understand this is your day-to-day. You're going to be here every day.
Yeah, well, you need to at least be willing to compromise.
Yeah.
That's part of the thing about being an honest broker is you have to say, okay, suppose that we give you 100% or more of what you want in 2 of the 5 factors, and you accept 90% or maybe a little less than the other 3.
Mm-hmm.
How is that not a fair market offer?
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
And the other 3 factors you also have to factor in coming off a Super Bowl, good young quarterback, good offensive coordinator. So, your career is being helped by the situation you're currently in. That needs to factor into your thinking beyond just making it solely about the contract.
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing that.
Yeah. It's not about solely the X's. It's not about just the dollars and cents. It's really not. Right. One of the things that you have to understand is that the most personal thing there is business.
Always.
I can tell you this right now. You can have all the credentials in the world, but if I don't like you, we're not working together. Period. Like that's just what it is. So I mean, look, man, we spent enough time on this. I get it. Brandon Aiyuk, God love you, but let's close it out right now. You guys can put it in the chat as well. Does Brandon Aiyuk get signed before?
Your audio's breaking up on me, Coach.
You got me now? You got me now? Does Brandon Aiyuk?
You went underwater in a sub there for a while.
Sorry, boss. Does Brandon Aiyuk get signed before the season starts?
I hope so, but I doubt it. My predictions throughout in the articles that I've written are that he's not going to get all of what he wants, and therefore he's going to hold out for at least the first game, maybe up to 3, and then he'll play.
Okay. I think
one thing from the chat, I saw a super chat from Gammon.
Yeah, I'm about to get it right now. I think we have a super chat from Gammon. $10. Thanks, Gammon. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan had Brandon Aiyuk in the doghouse. Then they created a strange and vague atmosphere when addressing the media about it. I'm not surprised with BA's stance. Payback is a bitch. What goes around comes around. Who's getting the payback, though, Gammon? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, it's cool to stick it to the man. Like, but what's moving the needle in this situation? You still want your money. You still want to get paid. You still need to keep your name and your cachet and your brand up to par. You still have teammates. The locker room is going to be able to talk about this. Like, what payback is Brandon Aiyuk getting? The Niners just drafted a first-round pick at wide receiver this year, and then for good measure picked up one later on in the draft. Look, man, I think players should get their money. I really do. But, there's context, right? And I feel as though we don't know what Brandon is asking for, but if it's in the numbers of what was said, and that's another thing why that podcast shit is dangerous, because you let people speak for you, and when you don't correct them, people take that as your own words. So when Fred Taylor says to Brandon, I think you should get paid $30 million, and Brandon Aiyuk looks him dead in the face and just shrugs his shoulders, nobody's going to remember that as Fred Taylor said that Brandon Aiyuk should get paid $30 million. That's going to go down as $30 million was mentioned as you getting paid annually, and you agreed. You think that that's what you should get paid. Like, that's why that... Let me get off my soapbox. Let me I gotta chill out. Like, that podcast shit,
penalty box.
dog. That podcast shit irks me to a whole level, brother. I'm telling you,
it's way too circle jerk. It's way too inside. It's Brandon talking with people who tell him what he wants to hear. It's junior high school.
It's chatty, bruh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not professional. It doesn't come across as that at all, and it comes across as wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, we have a super chat right here from Amp the Carolina Niner. Thank you so much. Oh shit, we got super chats now. Coach B ain't the only one about to get the bread. Yes, we out here balling, bruh. We back.
It's so cool to have super chats now. And about time. Well earned.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like thank you. Like, I agree with this. Like, Classar 49, once it gets in the podcast, it's never not ugly because they do it for clicks. Nobody wants a boring interview. Right? We don't want to hear. It's like when you get in those, that's one thing that I feel like players don't necessarily understand. Like, I understand getting your message out there, and I understand not being silenced in the face of what you think is like unfair tactics. I get that. But you also have to understand, like, certain platforms cast a certain light on you. And when you get to talking in a all-player atmosphere where there's nobody really there to kind of like challenge you, to ask you any like rebutting questions or recant on some of the things you said or try to make sense of what one side has said, like basically a mediator or, dare I say, a real media professional. Hello. What happens is that the conversation gets muddy. It is very one note, okay, throughout the entire way. And what happens is that it's not the flex you think it is. It's really not.
No.
Because the people who you want to hear that message are not listening to that podcast.
Why should they?
Exactly. It's just weird, man. It's weird.
Well, it serves no useful function.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help move things along. It makes you look selfish and greedy. It makes you look disconnected. It makes you look unprofessional. Throughout this process, I've always said that Aiyuk deserves slightly more than St. Brown money.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not happy with what Brandon has done lately. I don't think that helps.
Right.
And at this point, again, it's just compromise on 2 of the 5 elements and move on. Get your money, get your contract done, value where you are, realize that there is no way with John Lynch as the person controlling the trade that you're going to get dealt anywhere. No one is meeting his price because his price is a first-round draft pick. No one in the NFL is going to give him that. Which means, Brandon, you are not being traded. Period. Adjust.
Hey, man, this is what happens when you talk about insider trading, man. The league ain't fair.
Never has been.
I can count to 32. Can you? It ain't that much.
Yeah. All
right? It ain't hard for 32 people to collude and all say at one time in one breath, hey, man, we're not doing this. This is bigger than the player. We're trying to keep a market in control. All right. It's kind of flying off the rails, especially at wide receiver. And you guys got to do me a solid. We're asking for a first round pick, which we know you can't buy. It's
a way of ending the trade talks to begin with. You're staking out the first round position because you know it won't be met. Mm-hmm. It's another element of wanting to keep Aiyuk, of insisting on a 1.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, but I still hope that they can come to a compromise, but that's going to depend on Aiyuk.
Yeah, it's going to be wild, man. Yes, thank you. 199 Super Chats activated. Yes, we're back, baby. We are back. I will tell you this, man. What we have to understand on BA side is, what do you really want? I hate to say this, but I don't want to count nobody's pockets. I'm not. But when you say generational changing money to blue collar workers, $14 million is generational changing money. Okay?
Yeah,
like,
but in a football context, it's not, because it's half the money that he's expecting to get. So I get it from that context.
$26 million is generational changing money. Okay?
Yeah. Well, you can't go to the public and argue I'm poor when it's $14 million.
Yeah.
But in the NFL context, I get where he's coming from. I'm asking to get paid 28 to 30, and now they're going to roll over to the 5th year to 14. I'm getting screwed. He's right. That's true within that context, and that's where he's trying to come from. But you need to place it in that context in the interview also. You can't plead poverty when, even under the worst case scenario, you're going to get paid $14 million a year next year.
At least.
Right. So, come on now. A little perspective, especially in this economy. No, you can't go there. But you can say just that, all I'm asking for is my true market value. And if he stays calibrated to that position, he's fine. But you need to stay there. And he's not.
I mean, is there a world where Brandon Aiyuk doesn't think that the Niners are going to pay him the money that he deserves anyway, so he's overshooting what he's asking for?
Maybe, but I think that he's always been about, from the very beginning, pay me a little bit more than Amon-Ra. And I think that's fair, that's justified by his ability, his stats, especially in light of how few targets he has and still producing the numbers he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair. You give him an Amon-Ra deal, okay, good. But if he's insisting on every element of the Amon-Ra deal to be surpassed, and if he's insisting on $30 million, then he's asking for far more than what Amon-Ra got. And so at that point, no, you're overpricing yourself and you're being over-demanding. Just retreat to where you were. Where you were was absolutely defensible in every way, that you're worth slightly more than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay. Now anchor your position to that. Instead, it's, well, Jefferson got more, so now I'm going to ask for more. No, you're not Jefferson.
Well, Amon-Ra got 4 years for $120 million. All right, he got 77 in guaranteed.
A lot was incentives, though, and a lot of that was final year. The final year was spiked. He got 24 and a half and then 32 in the final year. So that the way it was structured was different also.
Cool. The $77 million in guarantees is the highest among all wide receivers. He leapfrogged Cooper Kupp, who previously had $75 million. I mean, 4 years at $112 million, that matches Amon-Ra. He just is not going to get the guaranteed money.
Well, but that's where the Niners can compromise. Is we'll give you less than the total deal Amon-Ra got, but we'll give you more in guaranteed money. That's how the Niners win this, is that you get less on the books later so that you can fit him in with Brock because you give him more guaranteed money up front.
So how does this make sense to us? How does this make sense to us, but it's not happening there, and they're quote-unquote nowhere close?
Because it appears that Brandon Aiyuk is asking for now an AAV at 30 in addition to everything else. So that puts the total contract above 120 and more signing bonus money, more fully guaranteed money, etc. It's just there's no give in Brandon's position. He just keeps going up. If he just stayed where he was with Amon-Ra and then said, okay, play with me here, give me the Amon-Ra deal in some forms and not others, that's doable for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like Aiyuk is not willing to go there now because other receivers have got more money.
I mean, he says that he for sure wants to be a 49er. You know what I'm saying?
Are you? If you were, then tell the Niners, give me X and spell out every detail. Say, here is what I will sign. Here is what I'm willing to compromise on. Let's make this thing happen now. That's the best thing for the Niners, the best thing for Aiyuk in terms of getting back in the field. So you got a couple weeks, get it done.
Stop, Yaz. There's no way in hell he's asking for $32 million. Stop. You know what I'm saying? Stop. Yeah. Yaz, you're tripping. Yo, what's up, Ryan? Yeah, that's my little bro in the back, man. This is me and my bro at Little League together, man. All right, bro. So I think we've bled this turnip dry. I mean, we've squeezed the goddamn life out of this topic. Moving on, right, which is the season outlook. Optimism versus pessimism. One thing that we do is a lot of these topics that we have, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these topics basically have a negative hue on them. You know, it's like at times, well, most of the time, we are always trying to figure out what is going on with the team. And let's go ahead and make a change of pace. I want to be able to talk about exploring the reasons to be optimistic about the upcoming season, and conversely, what are the reasons to be pessimistic? We're going to weigh in on the factors of both sides. But what I wanted to do first off is give you your flowers because, Tom, you actually wrote a very good article covering this very topic. So as we know, Tom, you get a topic where you get the floor just like everybody else. So take it away, my man. How do you feel about your reasons for optimism versus pessimism this season?
All right. Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. And so this will be up on si.com tomorrow. It's for optimism. You say, all right, what do they need to do to return to the Super Bowl and win it? And that's going to require some changes in thinking, execution, player development. The first factor for me in optimism is a leap from Purdy, that he has his first fully healthy offseason. And through that, he's got a chance to work in his mechanics. He needs to add more zip on his ball to throw it into tighter windows. He doesn't need the bigger arm to throw deeper so much as being able to complete against good coverage. And so hopefully with mechanics that can happen. Another one is bulking up a little bit, getting more body armor up so that he can take hits. But I think the key for Brock is that he'll be more confident, he'll be a better leader, more in command, and he'll have more options in being able to throw into tight windows, knowing now what his full capability is as a runner, and that'll make him less predictable and harder to defend. So I think that's going to definitely help the team, is that Aiyuk or Purdy might not have the same stats as last year. The stats last year were exceptionally good, but I think that he's got a chance to be a better player nonetheless, regardless of what the stats say. Next thing is using the full running back rotation. Kyle talked about this recently, that in light of extending Christian McCaffrey, there's a need to use the entire running back room. That's something McCaffrey has been against. He said, I'm sorry, I'll have to get my audio harder for you, Alpha. Sorry about that. So,
dude, you are fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So for the full running back rotation, you've got a talented player in Jordan Mason, who Kyle hasn't used as well as he could, primarily because he fumbled the ball in an off-season game, and he's not that great in pass pro. Well, let's see what more Jordan Mason has added to his game in his off-season, and see what he can do, see what Elijah Mitchell can do. But the last time they used a full running back room was 2019, and their running game was unstoppable. So I think that a full running back rotation, if Kyle commits to it, can be a big asset for the Niners this year. Another factor is the speed infusion from the draft. You got a lot of players that are quick. That's going to help them at receiver, at running back, and especially in the return game. I think the return game is going to be much better this year as a result of having Garendo on kicks with the new rules, and then seeing what can happen in the punt returns. Another factor is red shirts get to play. We've had reports of D. Winters playing really well. That's going to be essential. If he can step in and earn a starting role, that will be huge while Dre Greenlaw sits. Then we've got a number of other redshirt players. Braden Willis reportedly being used more in the offense, especially as a motion guy. And we've got Darrell Luter ready to go. So guys that haven't played much are finally going to get their opportunity, and the Niners need that. They need more depth. Next factor is Leonard Floyd. He can be overlooked, and he shouldn't be. 10 sacks a year, doesn't get hurt, can play in a five-man front, could play within a simulated pressure scheme. I think Floyd's their best defensive end opposite Bosa since D. Ford, and he's going to pay big dividends. I don't think people are seeing that. I think Floyd's going to be much bigger than people are predicting. And last factor for me is the secondary, that it's much deeper. They're better as blitzers. They're better in run defense. You've got a year for Jair Brown to step up and really be a star on this team, and I think he will do that. You also have Diamador Lenore, who's stepping up his game. And then you drafted Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa. Both of them can blitz. Both of them can run D. And I think that's going to really help them. If the Niners go to more simulated pressure, the secondary is going to be a critical part of that. And having a deeper secondary, I think, will really help them.
And this is why you're a dog. This is why you're a dog, man. This is why you know it all.
Thanks, Coach. You know
what I'm saying? That was awesome. I mean, and this article can be found where, Tom?
Tomorrow. So it's not on the site presently.
I didn't want to say it. Yeah, I didn't want to say it right away because I know sometimes we get a little bit of a preview.
Yeah. So it'll be on the Fan Nation Grant Cohn's SI site. It'll be there tomorrow.
Great, man. Look, man. I feel like things to be optimistic about with the season. I am optimistic about the growth of Brock Purdy. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm very optimistic about what he can do with the full offseason. What he's gonna be able to do with the entire offense under his belt right now. I heard some reports from some guys that were at OTAs, and it's already being said that Brock has full command of the offense. Him and Ricky Pearsall seem to be fitting in very nicely together. I'm excited for Brock. Also, the Leonard Floyd addition is going to be huge. I think that Leonard Floyd just on autopilot gives us more consistency than Chase Young ever did. Okay. And right now, Randy Gregory, I feel like Randy Gregory almost would aspire to be a Leonard Floyd. You know what I'm saying? In his career. I think.
Yeah. Because both of them are inconsistent players. Well, they'll flash, but then they flash, and 30 minutes later, you might see another flash.
100%. Right.
You're going to get great effort every play, every down, and he's going to have consistent production throughout the year.
And he's somebody that you have to account for in pass rushing. It's somebody who I really am going to be excited to see what they do with the defensive line this year. And Nick Bosa is going to be able to finally get some consistent help. I mean, I don't think we've ever put anybody over there on the bookend that's really been able to give Nick a consistent pass rush on the other side where he can maybe get some relief on the inside. Now, mind you, what's really going to, okay, I'll get to that. But that's something that we really want to be able to see as far as something that I'm optimistic about. Me, I am optimistic about the safeties, man. Malik Mustafa coming in. We had Jair Brown, who actually played one of the best games of his career, short-lived career thus far, but one of the best games that I've seen him play in the Super Bowl. All right, he's good. Definitely, I'm looking for him to carry over that type of confidence over into this season, and then waiting to see what Huff does. Right now, you got to look at it this way. From one perspective, you could say that our safeties are, inexperienced. They may be young, but if Huff comes back healthy, I mean that becomes an immediate strength. With having 3 guys back there that can all possibly play, that's a big deal. The same thing for us being happy and excited about the consistency of Brock Purdy. I'm going to stay with the secondary again. We get to see Demo put it all together again, right? Yeah. Like, we get to see him actually not surprise us this time, but come in and be that pro from week 1, right? I am excited to see what that does for us. And also, steel sharpens steel. I want to see what mentee Demo picks up because he was BA's mentee. Right. And I want to see if Ronaldo Green gets scooped up by Demo. Who's going to get scooped up as that guy for the next player that's going to understand that type of tutelage? That stuff used to happen on our team a lot, right? Quan Alexander was a leader that a lot of guys used as a pace horse, right? Emmanuel Sanders came in 2019 and gave that leadership. Jimmy Ward has always been a guy like that for our team, is before he left being one of the longest tenured Niners here. So I'm also going to be looking for a nice segue into my last point, new leaders. Who's going to step up? Who is going to become a force? Who's going to become the new Juwan Jennings? Who's going to be the new gregarious spirit that's on the team that we cannot live without because they become the guide-on for what we do? So one of the reasons why you love players like Juwan Jennings is because it's almost like it virtue signals to what happens behind closed doors. Like, man, they got to be playing hard if this is the type of guy that they have on their team, right? You always love that echo to the whistle, Rudy Rudiger, I'm going to keep playing to the last drop style of play. And I'm going to be honest, we had some too cool for school rookies over the years. They've come in, they've seen the type of team that they're coming on, and they think that they already have arrived. Like, they are that good. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. A couple of players kind of came in feeling like they could already kind of, I don't know, they were already all pros just based on the fact that they play with all pros. Maybe a little bit of that was in Danny Gray,
and Drake,
right? Seeing some guys that came in that kind of saw like, oh, well, these guys go to the Super Bowl, they go to the playoffs, they get national accolades all over the place. This is just a foregone conclusion. No, it's not.
You earn your way in the league.
Yeah, you got to earn your way. So I really want to see what rookies don't take this stuff for granted. What second-year guys step up and say, send me, I'll go. Right? Not enough of this. We're going to wait for Dre Greenlaw to get it done. We're going to wait for Fred to get it done. Oh, no. We get a good play from Debo. I want some new names. to start popping up. So I'm excited about that. I'm very optimistic about that. Also, optimistic about what we're going to do with the next phase of our coaching staff, because this is the first time where we've had a defensive assistant head coach in Brandon Staley. All of what he brings, this is one thing that I'll tell you right now. There are many brilliant coaches that have been with the 49ers coaching staff. Right? Many brilliant coaches. I do not want to pettifog anybody that has been on the staff. But for what it's worth, Brandon Staley is looked at as like the defensive Kyle Shanahan as far as genius is concerned. As far as understanding pressures, knowing how to put game plans together from a defensive perspective, he's looked at as being that brilliant. And also, he's looked at as knowing how to blow games and not knowing how to get out of his own way, just like Kyle.
Yeah.
But
he's the flip side of the coin. Yeah.
He is the flip side of the coin. But there's also some syntax in that, because maybe those two will be able to get back together. Well, not back together, but maybe those guys get together and they're able to share some syntax, right?
Hopefully
like,
so.
How do you see things? All right, well, this is the way I see things on my side of the ball. Like, oh, okay, well, when you're going through decision-making processes during games, what do you go through? Oh, man, well, this is what I went through. I feel like Kyle needs another guy. I mean, Anthony Lynn was there before, but it's another offensive guy. You know, I think that Kyle having a guy that actually kind of cuts his teeth on variations of defense that Kyle's offenses had problems with. I think that can lend to some new thinking, new approaches for the season. I know I'm being optimistic. But
yeah, well, that's the half of the equation right now.
Yes.
It's the season. You know, we're talking about optimism. Okay.
We are talking about optimism. So, yes. So these are all things that can be grabbed. They're in arm's reach. This isn't pie in the sky stuff that I'm talking about. Just some of this stuff seems a little far-fetched because of, you know, the track record. But all of these things are very attainable. Right? These are all things that can be achieved with ease. I think also something else to be excited about this year is I really believe that we've got quite a few returners on the team this year. I think that we're going to be able to finally get a consistent return man. And I'm excited to see what Isaac Garendo does with kickoff return. It's the new kickoff rules this year.
I don't know about that.
I think he's going to be a weapon, bro. I do.
Well, because he's got instant acceleration. He's a track guy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
He was a great track guy, especially in high school. And so somebody that's got that level of acceleration can be great in these rules.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's how quickly can you get up to speed and go. And
right.
By people. That's what Garendo can do best. I think that he isn't going to be much of a player within the offense, but he's going to be a legitimate weapon as a returner.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be, in that role, could be one of the better players in the league as a returner if he can realize his full potential and athleticism and apply it. But I'm looking forward to seeing it. I want to see what he can do.
Hell yeah, man. Like, I'm excited to see exactly what Garendo do. Isaac Garendo can do. We have a super chat for $19.99. Thank you so much. Manhattan John, Coach, love your channel. Excellent takes always. Quick PSA to all NYC Niners fans. Finnerty's will be open again for football season. If you never watched a Niner game, me there. It is an absolute Niners temple. See me there. Yeah, Finnerty's in New York, man. If it's open, Niner fans, get out there, man, so you guys can have a good time and stay with like-minded people while you watch the game. I like watching the game with no sound off by myself. I'm a weirdo. But
you and me both.
Yeah, I need no sound, bro. I'm a weirdo, man. But I will tell you this, man. There are things to be optimistic about. That's why we harp on kind of like the juxtaposed position of being negative. Because if you really want to talk about positive things about this team, I mean, what is there not to like? Right?
Well,
state-of-the-art team.
Not to like, but you've got the players that can win the Super Bowl. You just need to put it all together. And that's harder to do than the rest of it. But you need Kyle to make the adjustments to get them to a place where they can win.
Okay. So look, we're trying something new. I just texted you, Tom, but we're trying something new, and what I want to do is I want to assess our last topic of the day. All right. And this is something that I feel like will get the juices flowing. Okay. Kyle Shanahan and the coach of the year. Is this his year? Is this his year? Kyle has had a lot of attributes and superlatives placed at the feet of his career. The best this, he's a genius. Offenses are through the roof. Play sequencing, phenomenal. Play design, couldn't be better. Salt and pepper beard, wears Yeezys, names his son after Lil Wayne, kisses babies, all the ladies love him, ran for Congress. I mean, Jesus Christ, he's the best man on earth. But the one award that has slipped through his meteoric grasp and rise through the NFL is Coach of the Year. I don't know what's wrong with the NFL. I don't understand how they have not rectified this wrong, right? This
coaching awards are always given to who does the most with a team that's expected to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's the right way to measure it. It's who did the best job, period. And you evaluate it that way. But it requires knowledge of the game and applying that context. And it's easier to say, well, this team is expected to go 4-13 and they ended up 8-8, and you give them best. Why? But that's a lot of times that's how it goes. Kyle could get it this year, though. It's within reach. Part of the equation in all this is there's a narrative that's built up of X hasn't received the award yet. He deserves a career award.
He deserved to get it, yeah.
And so that'll play into Kyle's favor this year if he does well. And up to him.
All right, so you know where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah.
So do you think that I think it's possible for Kyle to get Coach of the Year? I do.
Yeah. Especially one thing, because he hasn't received it yet.
And he has a quarterback now. Kyle has a quarterback. When Kyle gets a quarterback, he's consistently good. And there's going to be just things that you can't ignore when Kyle has somebody that actually knows how to make sense out of this offense, especially through the air. What I will say, though, is I tend to believe that there are fans who feel like this is kind of like long overdue, and he should have already gotten Coach of the Year, right? So, and this is something from JM617. Coach of the Year usually goes to the best feel-good story. Kyle not winning in 2019 guarantees he doesn't win going forward. So this is why I love this comment, because you and I asked each other, okay, so if Kyle has not won Coach of the Year by now, what year during his regime with the 49ers should he have won Coach of the Year? And you and I both agreed that 2019, Kyle should have won Coach of the Year. Kyle should have won Head Coach of the Year. If there was ever a year that he was going to win it, it was 2019. And if you think about it, it was pretty much one of the most neck and neck Coach of the Year races that season, because the actual Coach of the Year who won that year in 2019 was John Harbaugh with the Baltimore Ravens, and we played the Ravens that year at 10-2, and we lost in Baltimore that year. But if you think about it, bro, that year Niners finished 13-3. All right, and if that entire season, dude, started out 8-0. All right, didn't lose their first game and we didn't lose our first game until we played the Seahawks in overtime, by the way. Okay, that team, let's just look at where we were offensively in team conversions. We were 5th in the league in third downs. Okay. But we were 5th in the league ranked offense in third downs, 2nd in the league ranked on defense. Offensively, we had the number 2 offense. We had the number 2 offense in the league. We were ranked 4th in yards that year. On defense, we had the number 8 ranked overall defense, second in yards scored upon that year. Number one against the pass in defense that year. Number one against net yards gained per pass attempt that year. Number 2 in average net yards per drive. Number 2, we led the league. We were second in the league in rushing that year. First in the league in rushing touchdowns that year. How did he not win it that year, bro? And the Ravens didn't do anything.
No. That's my other problem with Coach of the Year is that you should factor in the playoffs before you hold the vote.
Yes.
You can say that there are, based on the regular season, there are X finalists. And then you factor that in and say, okay, now, did we learn anything more about these coaches in the playoffs? And had they done that, John wins. Instead, no. So, yeah, I would agree with JM that 2014 or 2019, he should have won. 2021, you could make a case in the Debo All-World year. 2022, you could make a case because they went through so many quarterbacks.
We had 3 quarterbacks. Yeah, that was 2022 was crazy, bro. I didn't know how he didn't get it in 2022 either, man. Wasn't that the Brian Dable year? Who won in 2022? Hold on, wait a minute.
I think so. But you go back to 2019 and you say that was a really young team that grew up in a hurry.
Yeah.
And made it to the Super Bowl. I think that also needs to factor in is when you're evaluating who did a great coaching job. A lot of young players were critical pieces of that Super Bowl team.
Young Dre Greenlaw, young Fred Warner, super young. You know why I like that 19 year? Brian Daboll won it. Jesus Christ, 2022.
Yeah, hello.
Come on, man.
East Coast bias.
Jesus Christ.
Always.
I'm on the East Coast and I'm saying East Coast bias. Damn it. I'm with
That's
you.
funny. Yeah.
I'm over here too.
It's true. I mean, Brian Daboll answered the question. Is there East Coast bias? Brian Daboll won it over Kyle. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was nuts, bro. It's nuts.
That was bad.
I love the 19 year because I feel like that team grew as the season got bigger. Like you usually go undefeated and then you lose and you kind of fall off and then everybody kind of like comes back to earth. But like we lost and nothing changed. Like if you think about it, all of the players that we know now that are still with the team today, they all had like their coming out party in 2019. Like think about the Fred, dude. That's when Debo caught that fade route in Baltimore on the road. 2019 is when Fred had the pick six against Seattle. Then Dre, dude, isn't that the 2 goal line stands that Dre had? He had a goal line stand against Atlanta, which we didn't get, and then turned around and had another goal line stand against
one that did work against Seattle.
Against Seattle. Fuck, come on, bro. Like that year
Love Dre.
That year was unbelievable. And Dre with the pick on Russell Wilson to seal the game. Remember that? That was a magical year, bro. Man,
that was the year when just everything went right.
Yeah,
and
watching.
But you should reward the coach for it. He's part of making that happen.
Yeah.
In addition to just young players stepping up, and you look at all those guys you pointed out. All those guys had their coming out party, and ever since then, they've been the foundation of the team.
Yeah.
Every one of those guys has been a leader on the team and carried them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man, there's something about special seasons, man, that just make you look back and just think like, man, this is when you made your name. This is when we found out who you were, you know? I remember Quan Alexander losing his job because it was just clear that we did not need you anymore. The young boys have it. And then out of nowhere, they became the best linebacking core in the league. Like, that was a special year. 2019 for sure was a special year for me.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, came out of nowhere. I didn't call 8 games in a row. Nobody saw that shit coming. It was it was so dope just to ride that ride. You know what I mean? Like,
and you think about it, 8 games in a row, 13-3, and your quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy fucking Garoppolo.
That isn't a coaching job?
Right. Porn star Jimmy.
Come on.
Yeah. But I feel you. 2022 was pretty much the goated year, too. I mean, Kyle blew through 4 quarterbacks that year, still made it to the NFC Championship game. Lost Trey, came, still held the ship down, won with Jimmy. Jimmy ran out, picked up Mr. Irrelevant, and then took him all the way to the NFC Championship game. And then Brock was lights out. I mean, that year was. And you think about some of those games Kyle was calling that year with Brock. Remember the double screen seam to George Monday night,
wide open.
That was sexy.
Nobody in the frame of the TV. It's like he's alone in the parking lot catching that pass because there's nobody near him.
Nobody.
Fun.
Those are some pretty games, man. We have a super chat from Ricky Williams for $1.99. Thank you, man. If Shanny retired today, what would be his legacy?
Unfortunately, it would be Marv Levy. It's go to the Super Bowl and lose. But
blowing games.
Marv Levy, it would be more about what he didn't do than what he did, unfortunately. He would still be recognized as a great offensive mind and somebody that elevated the game and took it to a new place. But ultimately, the lead would be lost 2 Super Bowls as the Niners head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think the lead. I think that, in true NFL fashion, what they'll do is they'll cuck you and get you in with all of the manja, like the best offense ever, the best play sequencer, and then it'll come off with, that'll be the former, but the latter will be every major game that he's ever been into, he has choked and blown it. And
10-point leads.
10-point leads. And what's even crazier is that it's the same fashion in which he loses these games.
And it's things that we've been talking about here on this channel for a long time. It's what Kyle needs is a sounding board so that he can get through those just brain fart moments, the freeze in Philly, not using Debo in the final 9 minutes and 21, a number of things where it's just not knowing the overtime rules. And the problem is, how can you get a sounding board in for Kyle when his ego won't allow it? So part of his failure is self-induced. It's on Kyle. And it's sad because he is a great offensive mind. He is great at scripting. But the head coach has some problems that he needs to clean up. And the GM has problems he needs to clean up specifically to the offensive line. So I think that Kyle can look in the mirror and say, I have met the enemy and I am him. Is that there's a lot of things that he's done to prevent his own success. And therefore, he needs to grow, learn, and adjust. And that's going to be one of the keys to this year is, can he adjust and move forward? He hasn't solved simulated pressure yet. Baltimore had 5 interceptions. Kansas City had 9 unblocked rushers. And now the league, all of the league, is going to go with simulated pressure.
They're going to attack that O-line.
Yeah. So Kyle is going to have to be ready for that, and so is Brock. And that's going to be a key element to this year of just, can you get it done? But I respect what Kyle has done. I respect his knowledge, but the fact remains that he's also gotten in his own way.
I respect that take, man. For what it's worth, we got to be able to finish the deal with Kyle. I do think that this year there's something different in the air this year. I feel it. I really do. I feel like there's something different. I feel like the approach is a little different, especially with BA not necessarily being locked and stocked, ready to go. How do I explain this? Sometimes you have to be able to take advantage of calamity, and you got to be able to use that anxiety to push you to your goal, whether you have everything or not. Quite frankly, do it scared. You ain't never going to be ready,
Create chaos, create energy out of chaos. And you've got the team that's somewhat anxious going into this year, coming off a Super Bowl loss, questioning themselves and can we get this done, or is this something that's going to haunt us? As a head coach, you have to tap into that energy and convert it into something positive. And if they open the season well, Kyle will have done that. I can't hear you, Coach.
Oh, perfect. Now we're here. Hey, Tom. Oh, we got another super chat from Caesar. $1.99. Finish the story, Kyle. Agreed. I agreed with that. I think all of us want finality. We want closure. And I will say this before we close. We got to make good on this regime, or it's going to be egg on our faces for a missed dynasty. Because people are going to come back rifling around. Like the years that we're going to want to forget about, right? Somebody's going to come back and say, whatever happened to the Niners in 2000, like all of those years, bro. Like I just remember they were good for like a long and somebody's going to come poking around. And I'm going to tell you, man, they're going to realize that it's not the Super Bowl that we're missing. I feel like we're missing out on a dynasty.
Yeah, well, it's just they underachieved. You can look back at it and say, if Kyle didn't have this, in my view, dead wrong philosophy on offensive line, you lost 2 Super Bowls because Kansas City had a defensive line that exploited you. First Super Bowl, 1 for 9 for Garoppolo on pressures with 2 picks. That decides the game. You lost the game on the offensive line. This Super Bowl, 9 unblocked pass rushers, most of which were off the simulated pressure. Again, the offensive line. Again, Kyle not having the correct philosophy. And again, the Niners losing on matchups in the trenches. And so to me, you're going to look back at this era and say that Shanahan's philosophy with respect to the offensive line cost them 2 rings, maybe more.
All right, so Ricky Williams puts in another super chat. How many wide receivers you taking before BA? All right, so let's do it. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. I'm taking. Hold on, let's do it. I'm taking Justin Jefferson before BA. I'm taking Tariq before BA. I'm taking AJ Brown before BA. I'm not taking Amon-Ra St. Brown before BA.
No, and neither is BA, and it's why he's holding the contract position that he is. CeeDee Lamb, it's debatable because you have to factor in the quarterback.
Okay.
There's a couple other guys where you could say, yeah, maybe not. But for me, I put BA about 9th, 10th. But I put him ahead of Amon-Ra. I think that he's on a par with Jalen Waddle, if not ahead of him in some aspects of his game. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would have Aiyuk within the upper echelon of wide receivers. He might not be 5th. And I also think that we're going to need to factor in these rookies are so good. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 5 wide receiver immediately.
Immediately.
He's that good. So
we're tripping.
Aiyuk will go down, but I think that he'll be 8, 9, 10 right now. Factor in the rookies, and he might drop some more.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, Jamar.
I'm taking Jamar Chase over BA. I'm taking AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Tariq Hill, the Devontae. Are you taking Stephon Diggs over BA?
No.
How about DK
better
Metcalf?
Stats, but it's I'm sorry, just on Diggs, it's better stats because he had so many targets.
He's traditionally used. He's been the guy since he came into the league.
Right, and he's got Josh Allen, so that helps too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't have a list in front of me. It's hard to do just off the top of your head. Mm-hmm. But basically, Aiyuk is in the latter half to the lower half of 5 to 10. So 8, 9, 10.
I'd say he's fringe.
Factor in the rookies, and the rookies are going to do well.
I would say he's fringe top 5 without the rookies coming in.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I would say if we're being fair to BA, he's fringe top 5, 6 maybe. Okay. That's without rookies being able to play and see how they look. But let's go ahead and end the show with the biggest one. Are you taking Debo over BA?
No.
Me neither.
No. You have to factor in the total game and say that look what Aiyuk does as a blocker compared to Debo. Mm-hmm. Look at Ayuk's effort in every play. Look at how well he is as a technician in getting in and out of breaks and separation. Mm-hmm. And he's more consistent.
100%. Tom, I need to read this real quick. We're trying to get out of here, but they keep This is a great comment. I will not listen. This is one thing about me, bro. I will not close the show on good comments. Like I am from the chat. We are from the chat, and we understand what it takes to put out a good comment. And I love this comment. Kyle's O-line philosophy cost the chance of at least 3 rings, considering the O-line was at fault for Purdy's injury against Philly in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, but that was Reddick beating your third-string tight end who you just brought off the inactive list. So it wasn't necessarily the OL, though the OL contributed to it. That was a failure by the tight end more than anything else. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. Debo is primetime. Aiyuk ain't selling no tickets. Like,
that's true, but that's a different question.
That's a different,
is he a better player.
Thank you. That's a different premise, bro. That's not what we're asking, right? Debo definitely has more cachet than Brandon as far as like eyes are concerned or like notoriety, but pound for pound, not pound for Kyle. Pound for pound. What receiver are you taking? Come on. Come on. And for all of the jabbing that I've done at Brendan today, that's facts. That BA ain't better than Debo ain't better than BA.
No.
I'm sorry. You gotta only in this offense with this play caller would this even be a question? Let me just say that. And that's part of why Brandon is frustrated.
Sure it is.
That's part of his frustration.
He's a better receiver. He knows he should be targeted more often.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm from the chat, and I don't care. I put up all the comments. He wasn't prime time in the biggest game of his life. Facts. You know what I'm saying? So, look, man, Tom, we got another one in the books. This is a real one, bro. Hey, man, we had a great one, man. This is the coach. You already know the slogan. Say it with me. Stay low and keep your feet moving. Stay good, guys. Talk to y'all, man.
Just vibe one time for your mind.